We're ready. Ready when you're ready.
Sorry about my back. Okay, folks, we will open the meeting. Policy and planning for Tuesday, 14 October. We have an apology from Councillor Jill Duncan. Would someone like to move that be received? Oh, and Richard Lambert. Councillor Richard Lambert. So I'll move from chair. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Wilson. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Received. For those of you online, we'll endeavour to keep our eyes on the screen. Carol's going to keep a watch for you. So if you raise your hand, it's on her device. Right. Next item on the agenda, we have a public forum. Today we have Mr. Balam Singh speaking on the food business grading bylaw. So one of you is speaking, I understand? Yes. Okay. If you just sit in the seat at the far end there. The rules. I'll wait for you to go. So basically, our rules around public forum submissions. You have 10 minutes, and that includes the question time.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, the time is yours.
My English is not good. I will translate for my son as well. क्या बोल
हाँ
क्या बोलना मतलब
well, I thought this was like we were supposed to hear you guys talk about it. We didn't know we were supposed to talk.
So do you want me to?
Please, George.
So as a part of when we're doing the submissions, when we discuss, would you like to speak to your submission that's on the submission form? It would be essentially coming forward and discussing your, or speaking to your submission on the bylaw and your feedback to the proposed bylaw. So it would come from the submitter.
So perhaps if you want to talk about whether there were some key points in your submission that you sent in to us that you want to raise here.
इसलिए चूज किया ग्रेडिंग की क्योंकि यहाँ पे विजिटर लोग आते हैं और बड़े टाउनों में कि एक ग्रेड है सबके पास अब बिजनेस से फर्क पड़ता है लोग देते हैं कि एक एक्सीलेंट ये है तो वहाँ पे घूमने फिरने वाले ज़्यादा आते हैं बीपी कॉम्प्लेक्स में तो इसलिए मैंने चूज किया
So he just worded that they should have grading because like when we have visitors, they know that we have A grade, so they're like.
People like happy for all visitor passing through for booze, maybe Wellington, Auckland, looking people for A grade, excellent A grade. I'm thinking for all people is happy.
You got any other points you'd like to add, or is that the main point?
That was the main point.
Main point.
Yep.
Could I perhaps help? Could I ask questions of you?
Yeah.
So first of all, just some of the others won't be familiar. Which business and balls do you own?
Indian cuisine.
And having a letter grading, are you for that or against it?
For it.
You're for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And your comments about people travelling through, they're expecting it,
Yeah.
and that's your issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're in support of us retaining a letter grading system. Yeah. Thank you. The other people may have some questions here.
We got any questions online?
Can I just ask another couple of questions around this?
Yeah.
So how much of your traffic, how much of your people in your shop are travelling customers as opposed to local?
Local mostly 60%, 70% for local people, all mutton, all goose, Sensen. Maybe 60%, 65% for local people. I live Boost is 12 year, last 12 year.
question for me, when you go out of town and you're going to go and eat in another food premises, is the sign, the letter on the wall, what you look for?
जब आप दूसरी दुकान पे जाते हो खाने के लिए तो आप वो लेटर देखते हो
Also, letter.
वो ये मिलता है जिसको
Yes, of course. I'm go sometime Pami and just check for some shop is small, very clean, but some shop is not clean.
Thank you. Have we got any other further questions?
No, not for me. I perfectly understand and I'm not allowed to comment on my support for.
Well, if not, look, Mr. Singh, thank you for coming in, or Mr. Singhs. Thank you for coming in and submitting and giving us an oral presentation. We know it's not easy, but we're here to effectively represent your views. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for a great shot too.
Number 48 's mine.
Yes, yes. 48.
Standard 48 order.
Right.
Oh, well, I might just go and order 48 just on your recommendation.
Right, moving on. So, number 4, if there's any conflicts of interest, could people either declare them now or at the item when we arrive at that item on the agenda? If there's none, we'll move on. Confirmation about order of business. Have there been any changes since? No, fine. So our minutes, and I'm just going to get my device up to scratch here. Where are we? Our minutes are starting page 6. So if people could just indicate any corrections or alterations to the minutes as I go through. Page 7, 8. Tracy's next. Tracy? She get an item.
Oh, Aroha Moe, in the public forum, was there only one person that's speaking today, or
Correct.
or has it already been, sorry, I didn't hear whether or not there was going to be 1 or 2. I see there's 2 on the order paper.
There's just one, Tracy. The second one pulled out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, continuing on, page 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and finally 15.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Your Worship. And do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Wilson, thank you. Those in favour say aye. And against?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Right, item 7 on page 16, follow-up items. As you'll note, most of them are closed items. There are some in progress. So is there anything that people would like to raise? Your Worship.
Just reported as on page, over the page. His Worship the Mayor will engage with Richard Coxon around the Swim for All program. I have done so. It is a closed action. He is happy to continue the program, but he makes the comment that normally this is an initiative that has not come from council. You know, Trevor Nichols has got in touch with him in the past, and he wondered why council was engaged. And I said to Richard, there's probably some sensitivity around, you know, the changes of business, etc. When he realised there was no change, that the current operators were still going to provide the service, he was quite happy to say that he will do that. And the second one, an action in progress from me, His Worship the Mayor sent a letter of appreciation to the Mahi Tahi project team. That has occurred as well. So that's a closed action. And I had an email back from James to say thank you and deeply appreciate it.
Thank you for that feedback. Do we have any further questions from the floor or online?
Councillor Delgatti.
Pete?
So can you just enlighten me how the Swim for All program actually works, please? I've just got had queries in this area, and in fact rang them this morning to ask if there was any free swimming lessons, and was told no.
Can I ask Fee who you contacted? Sorry, through the
I
chair.
just rang the Martin Pool.
There may be a slight delay in terms of process
Sure.
getting through this season, but it is a free swim program for those aged under 6. Is it 6? Looking at Nadia.
Sorry, 5 and under.
5 and under. Sorry.
Once they reach primary school.
Yeah, under 6, 5 and under. Same difference.
Sorry.
Yeah. So that's available. It is a free program, has run in the past, and following the conversation with Richard, I'm expecting it to run again this year, but might have to check with Trevor that he's actually offering it, that he has people to do it.
Gaileen's online, so she might have some.
Yeah.
Does Kayleen want to comment?
Thank you, Carol. I think possibly too it will depend on the COVID alert levels and the numbers they can have in the pool, but I'll certainly touch base with the contractor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. Do we have any further questions of the report on the follow-up actions?
I might just have an update on one of the points, if that's okay.
Okay, certainly.
On the second to last point on page 18 regarding the disposal of surplus land.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Peter, for that. We've had a specific look at all the properties in Bulls that were connected to the build of Te Marapi. And I've asked Graham Poynton, our legal advisor, to come up with a strategy of how we could potentially get those to market. We've come up with a simple table noting all the properties. There are 6 of them at the moment. We have taken into consideration previous expectations that has been created with some of the local property agents in Bulls, and we are in discussion with them just to confirm who will sell what. We will have a sit down with them next week and then finally confirm those, and then we'll get all those properties onto the market probably by the end of next week. And hopefully we'll see how the market reacts to that.
So through you, through the chair, could we have is the anticipation then that we have a report to council for this month? I'm quite happy to recommend that we proceed with sales subject to a report coming to council at the end of this month.
Thank you.
If that's what you would require.
Your Worship, it's interesting. I've asked Graham to have a look at current resolutions, and he has noted all of them with the resolution numbers where it was approved to sell them. So we've already made that decision.
Right, good.
Yeah. And if I may add, they also have the non-cash weightings as part of those resolutions, so we're familiar with that. Certainly happy to keep elected members updated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your Worship.
You want something about Kensington Road in
No, but I may bring to the attention also of elected members that what Arno is talking about is purely properties and Bulls. There is an additional property that you have resolved for sale in Kensington Road. It was the surplus land between what has previously been sold. Most people would know has gone to a scour, and that we're currently leasing to the bioforestry organisation. And there is a balance of land that we will is also going through a process. You have previously resolved for us to sell it. The only other bit of land that I would update you on very briefly is that of Spears, the toilets outside Spears Foods. And just by way of an update, I've negotiated a position for that with Spears Foods, and we're currently and I'm talking, it's about 20 minutes ago, drawing up a contract with Spears Group for that to transfer to their ownership as a title, but they will demolish and make good all of the surplus building that's on site. And one more, I think. Sorry.
Chair, I'm just going through this. I think it might be valuable for the room if I just remind you of the properties in Bulls that I'm talking about. So there's 6 of them. I think it'll be quite helpful. So it's the Town Hall car parks, Bridge Street bus station and info centre, High Street toilets and the Plunkett rooms, Fruit Street extension, that's at the top end of Bulls, and 15 High Street. Those are the 6 properties that we're looking at. Thank you.
Can I just ask, do people understand where Fruit Street is? So where we did up the house, it's the little side street that comes just off there to the left before it. It's Fruit Street.
Chris, you had a question?
I just had a question about the sort of, what I think these are actions, aren't they? Follow-up actions. So just ELT is, just explain, don't know what ELT is.
Executive leadership team.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, so it goes to them. And the review of the treaty settlement legislation, I mean, has that been, that's in progress at the moment, that's what it says here, isn't it? So I'm just wondering is there any effect on these processes in terms of that, or is it just really wanting to understand the action, I guess, and what the implications of that are, considering it talks about a request from Ngāti Parewapa in terms of a property previously,
Would like to answer?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I think the idea with that and the requirements under that is that as one of our closer partners that you are aware of the properties that we are planning to put out to sale, and you would know to us right up front if there's interest from iwi perspective on any of those properties.
Right.
And that really was
a notification process or a Lincoln process, and the review of the legislation is just, I guess, if there's anything in there that affects that.
Yeah, that's right.
This is land, first of all, that is not Crown owned. This is owned effectively by the authority. So it doesn't fall within the treaty settlements process. But what Ngāti Parawahawaha was interested in was, could it form part of the treaty process?
Right.
And the answer to that is really, if that was going to be the case, it would be up to Crown to potentially purchase it as a holding stock of land, which is probably unlikely, but that's where it sits.
No, that helps, thank you.
Okay. Unless there's any further queries.
Sorry, Councillor Whenua.
Tracy?
Kia ora. Thank you for that explanation, Andy. I think that's good to be clarified for people, because in the past of that very thing had come up regarding some land here in Taihape that people had assumed would be going into land bank, which was actually owned, which was not Crown land, which was actually owned by council. So being able to give that clarification, I think that's a good thing to so people do understand that we had that exact thing happen here in Taihape to do with a couple of properties up, and I'm thinking of around the Taihape squash. There were people that were talking about that area, and so it's just good. Thank you for that clarification again, Andy.
Thank you.
Right, we got any further? Look, unless there's any further questions, would someone like to move that the follow actions items be received? Thank you, Councillor Belsham. Seconded by Councillor Panapa. All those in favour say aye, and against, carried. Thank you. Item number 8 is my chair's report. Look, I must apologise to those online. I believe it's only just been circulated to you, but I hope you've had a chance to read it. I raised quite a number of issues in there. I'll just take it as read. But if anybody wishes to raise any queries, I'm more than happy to comment or pass over to someone who might comment better if there's a particular item. Most of the items I refer to are on today's agenda. So I'll move the reception of my report. Seeking a seconder. Thanks. Thank you, Your Worship. Those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. Item number 9, which is our reports for decision. Who's lead on this one? George.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take the report as read and just highlight just key aspect of this policy is that if we continue to have it, it'll enable a number of businesses to open for the local Easter Sunday. But if we were to essentially revoke or consult on revoking it, they wouldn't be able to open. As outlined in the report, there are a number of businesses that it doesn't directly affect, and with having this policy, employees of businesses still have a right of refusal for work. Happy to take any questions of the report.
It's not a question, but I'm happy to move that we go along with option 1, so it's open for debate. If there is a seconder.
Happy to second the receipt of, yes.
Right. So this is just reception. Those in favour say aye. Aye. And against? Carried. So do we have any further queries of the report? Anything from online?
Happy to move.
I had one query, and I think it was with respect to the map. Item on 3.1, it says shop trading permitted. I wonder, should we insert the word entire? And it says, I'll just read the section. It says, shop trading is permitted on Easter Sundays throughout the Rangitikei district. See map attached. And I wondered if there's putting entire in front of Rangitikei, does that make it a little bit more, does it emphasise that it's the entire district, the whole district, or am I?
I think that's probably up for elected members to determine whether or not they want to make the amendment. I think the fact that it does say, sorry, I'll just get 3.1 throughout the Rangitikei district, and it has a map showing the whole district, so it clarifies that. But again, if there's a proposal for an amendment, we're happy to do that and consult on it.
I think procedurally it's very much simpler if you don't amend.
Okay.
That you accept the word throughout. It avoids all sorts of other difficulties, and my suggestion would be not to do that.
Thank you for your advice.
Happy to move recommendation 2 without amendment.
Very good. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Belsham.
Councillor Dalgetty's got your hand.
Oh, yeah. Councillor Dalgetty, was that a query or was that a seconder?
It was a seconder.
Councillor Belsham just beat you to it.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so any other further comments or queries? Who was the mover there? So would you like to speak?
No, I think it's a detailed report and I think it speaks for itself.
And is there anybody speaking against?
Yes, Councillor Ash.
Councillor Ash, and you're muted currently.
Just a comment more so than speaking against it. Obviously, business trading is super important for the businesses and their employees, etc. I do have an historical view that I'm not in favour of Sunday trading. I'm not in favour of Easter trading. I believe it's been detrimental to the fabric of our communities, and I'm just putting that out there. I'm not in favour of the changes that have happened to communities since 7-day trading has come in. So I just thought I'd put that out there, but definitely see the importance of having been a retailer for 20 years of my career. I definitely see the importance of 7-day trading.
Is that for or against?
I think it was again.
His fence sitting, I think, Andy.
So do we have any further speakers either for or against? I know I'm bending the rules a little bit.
No.
No, right. So we'll put it to the vote. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And against? So one against. Do you wish that recorded, Councillor Ash? Okay. So the motion is, recommendation 2 is carried.
Sorry, a point of clarification. This is a recommendation to go out for consultation, so we're not actually voting on whether we agree or disagree with anything. So this will come in front of council again.
That's correct. Yeah, with the memorandum with the statement of proposal, submission form, etc.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right. Thank you, George.
Cheers.
Okay, so item 10, reports for information. The lead on this one is Carol.
That's right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very happy to take questions on anything in this report. I'll just make a couple of brief comments. Under 2.1, we have had a discussion at Te Ruku Ahika earlier this week about the Maori Responsiveness Framework, and we have a process going forward with reviewing that. So if there's any questions, happy to expand on that. But essentially, myself and Laquan will work with a couple of members of the Te Ruku Ahika committee to progress a change to that framework to make it more outcome-based, essentially. The bylaw program, you've heard from George. Also, the Maori freehold land policy did go in front of track the other day and asked for their input on that one as well.
Just hold on, Carol. You wish
Just with regard to 2.1, in terms of the engagement we've had in the northern area, Winiata Marae just made a point of saying that we need to engage with them. That it's not just a case of engaging with Mokai Pātea.
I think Laquan was present at that, wasn't he?
Yes. But we're just...
Okay, communications update. I'm happy to take any questions on that one. Councillor Hero.
Roha Mai, can you elaborate on what you've just said regarding the engagement between Mokai Pātea and Winiata Marae, please? Was there an issue around engagement? As far as I understood, they're part of Te Rōpū Ahika, and not only that, but they're actually quite engaged with council. I'm just sorry. Can you just elaborate on what the issue was around that?
It was really around, I think, civil defence, and just saying, please make sure that you're engaging with us, and saw it as a slightly wider connection. It wasn't necessarily a criticism of what has been done. It was just saying, please make sure that we're not left out of the loop.
Kia ora.
Okay, so moving on, happy or not engagement tool. There's a snapshot of what the report looks like at the back of this report. Now you'll notice in that report there's a couple of areas that had been marked as not overly positive, and this is an issue that we will be dealing with in terms of the system itself. Galen and Nadia have been involved with this because it's at one of our libraries. So I'll just pass over to Nadia to speak about that before I come back and make some general comments, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sure.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So what we can do with the Happy or Not system is drill down into the results to a granular level such as day and time. We can then discuss that with the relevant staff members if it's a specific, if there's a specific issue on a specific day, it does make it a lot easier. So in this case for Te Matapihi, there was one day in which there were 10 responses, and that was the 5th of October. That's an abnormally high number of feedback results for one day, and all the negative responses were at 11 a.m. So when we chatted with staff, they informed us that there were 2 young girls that were left alone in the foyer while the grandmother went to the restroom. And the girls started to play with and fight over the buttons of the Happy or Not console, and were even physically pushing it around. So staff intervened and asked the girls to leave. So that was a large contributor to the outcome for Te Matapihi. And when overall you have not a high responsive number of responses, then one incident like that can really blow out the overall marking for a week. With regards to Taihape, staff have been dealing with some poor behaviour from a group of young boys through the school holidays. It's included swearing, throwing cones through the door, road cones, and using the Happy or Not buttons when asked to leave the premise. Their behaviour continued, and it escalated yesterday where staff had to call the police. That aside, as a new survey tool, I guess we're learning as staff and managers what we need to undertake to make sure that the feedback that we're giving elected members and the public is reflective of the good work that the staff do and the areas that staff need to improve on. So there is opportunity to mark incidences down such as this as scam, and we just need to make sure that staff are reporting that through.
Thanks to Nadia. The opposite of which is the accusation that staff can go and push the green button every 5 minutes, and I accept that. What we're trying to do is to use a service that gives us a point of service reference on how well we're doing. And so I think Nadia's presented, I think, really well the conundrum that exists with this type of monitoring. It does give us a real-time point of service reference. It's now saying how do we weed out the relevant data that we can feed back so you and our audit are confident in the accuracy of our performance. And we're still working through that. I think, Carol, do you want to talk about how we're doing the Happy or Not for other areas?
Yes, and I was just going to make one more point. I had a chat with Sian before, and we've actually gone back to Happy or Not to ask them where you can see the scenario that Nadia pointed out, where you've got someone pushing the button. It does lock them out for 5 seconds. We can reduce that back. But where the staff member knows that it's an incident, just like Nadia described with those 2, that we can actually take those numbers out of the system itself to not give you a recording that's not actually right. So we've asked them the question and we'll see what they come back with. If that's not able to be done, then we'll include commentary in the monthly reports to say that the incident you'll notice at X location or X day is, and here's the reason why, a bit like Nadia just explained before. So we will do that. But in terms of other areas, so I think the council were pretty keen to know how else we were going to get some feedback from our users, in particular at sports fields, those sort of things. So we do intend to use the portable device that we've purchased as part of this system and go out to our sports field on a Saturday and get someone to walk around and actually ask people what's the state of the grounds like, is there areas for improvement, that sort of thing. We also are looking at putting up posters with a QR code that will take people to the website that will ask the same questions, how happy are you with the cleanliness of the toilets, the hours they're open, that sort of thing. So we're just developing those approaches at the moment to make sure that we get a good feel for everything that's happening across council.
Dave.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'd rather see an explanation for a blip in the system rather than having a blip in the system removed. It's just my personal opinion. I'm happy to accept what's these 2 incidences that you've referred to, but I'd rather see them explained than particularly removed, as what you indicated you may have been able to do. So just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm of the same vein. It's actually, it comes up as an unintended consequence, but if it's able to be explained, and now I'm aware of some of the behaviour that our staff are dealing with, it actually gives me as an elected member a far better insight into how the machine operates, and and perhaps how some of our public are not operating. I think that's being a diplomatic way of putting it. Yeah.
7 Reds yesterday at 3 o'clock in Tauranga.
Right. Yeah.
And a rather nasty
commentary.
But then a couple of blues came in the door, I'd imagine.
Yes.
The system actually does put, especially really foul language, it puts it in the spam folder. We can still see what's said, and it's usually very colourful language. Yeah.
By 9-year-old.
Yes.
Have you got any further comments, either from the floor or online, if you wish?
Yeah, I just wonder about, taking it out as a mobile thing. First of all, there's a fair staffing component to that, especially with the number of parks and reserves and things we have around the district. And if somebody's holding something in front of you, do you give the opinion that's your opinion, or do you placate or try and work off the staff member that's there at the time? One of the things about a button is that it's anonymous, isn't it? You're giving your impression day and time. But if somebody's standing in front of you with the machine saying, please do it now, we lose that. I just wonder if trying to go out to playgrounds right across the district on weekends and so on, it's a fairly big ask.
I suppose there's a balance there where we are trying to get feedback from users of our service, which is where we have moved to, and having the QR code as well as the roving device. I mean, again, we'll learn from what we experience with this. I think Jaime and I have talked about being able to do something jointly with a project that he's doing, so that it's a person going out to do a number of things.
Yeah, but why not? Because these facilities have to be booked. Why not say to the booking people, what condition did you find the facilities in? And just be a lot simpler around it. Because you know who you're engaging with. They will have a feel about, if the lawns are miles too long, they'll let you know.
I think, this is a proposal we put forward that Audit have agreed with. The operationalisation of it, you can look at through a number of ways. The strategy that I've endorsed with my team is that we want to get as much feedback as we can at point of service or point of contact. I would not support only going to a rugby club or a club every week and sending the same email. We're trying to get a diversity of opinions of the members of the public. That comes with risk, and we've just talked about that risk in terms of the libraries. And as Worship's identified another one, that when you're face to face, people will tell you what they think you want to hear. But the alternative, in terms of where we started from, which was an annual resident survey, is not something that I support, to give you an actor even close to resembling the level of service and your understanding of how well we're doing.
Yes, I certainly support being experimental and going out. We have to figure out new ways of engaging with the great unwashed who we never engage with, or who don't want to engage with us through the usual channels. So, but have to be wait and see. Chris?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I'd look at just a comment really. I think, look, and I don't know the detail or background of how this has been prepared, but like a bit of a lens of like social science research discipline, analysis on this sort of thing. And I would have thought, I don't know, this ops thing, whether it had sort of guidelines about where you put them, I mean, these issues must pop up with these things all around the place, the country, but some, you know, there is people with knowledge and things like that about this type of, the use of these devices, the use of just gathering in, feedback. All I'm saying is that whether you've actually already done that, well, that's great, but if it's just something to consider is that input, to how to get the most effective feedback and reliable feedback. You can get, you know, nothing's perfect, but that's just a comment, really.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and I, for your comment. The added benefit of having a person with a Rangitikei District Council jacket on that's wandering a sports field or an event or a playground, you know, there are multiple methods of our touch points for levels of service. The iPad is one, emails is another, which we'll do for consenting, etc. A QR code is another for toilets. I'm not going to have someone standing outside a toilet and asking for people to comment. But so there's multiple ways of doing it, and having a person out in a sports field, let's just notionally call it a sports field, allows us to engage with a lot of people. And if you think, one of the byproducts of this is that a great deal of the public suddenly see a person with an RDC jacket on. I could guarantee they'll ask them about a building consent or a barking dog or something. And it gives us far greater presence in our community that if that person can offer them an 0800 number or you're answering, again, questions at the source very quickly. And I believe that this is part of our community engagement, which is a positive byproduct of this service that we intend to roll out.
Interesting. Okay, look, unless there's any other further questions of the report online.
I was just going to say, just in response to Peter, yeah, look, fine, great with all that. It's just, I suppose, when you get these rogue data sets that come in, I'm just wondering if there's some advice about how they're placed or what, you know, whether there's something there that can help in terms of minimalising rogue data, basically. That's all.
Right. Would someone like to move that the operational update be received?
Oh.
Thank you, Chris. And seconded by, I'll second from the chair. Yeah. B, you had a query? Comment? What's your second?
Just trying to raise my hand, but yeah.
Was that as a seconder fee? Okay, Councillor Dalgety is seconding. Right. So those in favour say aye. And against, carried. Thank you. Right. So 10.2, our economic development update. Jaime, I believe this is you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The development update for August and September highlights the key activities undertaken by the economic development team during the reporting period, including July, which inadvertently was missed out, but should have figured in the report title as well. And we would like to take the report as written and are happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Right. Who would like to be first? I'll just raise one point that I found interesting. It's in 3.1, and it's the comment around it being expensive to subdivide land in the flood zone. And I thought it was rather ironic, seeing as we're going through a spatial plan process. Any further comment, or was that a throwaway line from someone, or were they deadly serious?
Well, it was. At the time, it was hard to judge whether they were making a joke or whether they were in fact speaking seriously. But I thought it was significant and maybe worth reporting.
Further questions? Your Worship.
Yeah, just like to point out in terms of, you know, real estate agents are there to sell properties. And when they make a comment around leniency should be shown on a change of use from commercial to residential. Well, I'm sorry that unless we change our district plan rules, we are non-prohibitive in nature. There's a process to go through. It's just that simple. We can't just say we will disregard them.
What was the number? The page number?
3.1.4, I think it is.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Real estate agents are there to sell properties. They would love, for instance, full relaxation of the West Taihape slide status. They would love leniency around whether it's 10 hectares or 1 hectare for subdivision. Unfortunately, we have a process.
Further questions?
Similar comment to what the mayor's made there, Chair. When you look at it from particularly these comments from agents, houses are taking sell longer earlier than your narrow pricing average of 26 days and 2 open homes. I'd suggest to you there would be many real estate agents that would be extremely happy with that. And it wasn't that long ago, we were talking 26 weeks to a year in multiple open homes. So I looked at that and thought it was a bit of a throwaway line to even be looking at that as some effect on information to council.
Harvey, I have one question for you, and it's around the business baseline survey. How are you going to touch base with those people who are new, who almost don't know that we exist, and vice versa, or those that have businesses that fly under our radar? Like they may have a business at home that they work online and they do stuff in New York. So how do we know? How are you going to go out and almost engage with those people that are effectively invisible?
Well, I can tell you what we propose. Now, whether we're going to be effective or not, the proof will be in the pudding, I think. But to begin with, we propose to hire an enumerator, somebody who will administer the baseline survey and will follow up and will be monitoring the results, passing back information to us, feeding back what they're finding through the Mahi Tahi program. And I refer to the experience that we had with Ed O'Leary, who we hired previously through the Mahi Tahi program to help us with the business database in the updating from April to June. And that personal contact with businesses was invaluable because what he found by talking to people and verifying their information was not just, gee, you still exist and gee, you're still in business, but who else do you know? And what else can you tell me that we're missing out on? And it was really a tremendous help. So the traditional methods, if you will, to administer a survey like this will be followed. We'll put it online. We'll put it on the Facebook page. We'll put it on the website. We'll print out hard copies and we'll distribute them around town. And we will use the business database as an initial way to contact people. And hopefully that will lead to the emergence or the identification of the sort of businesses that you're talking about. Because it's really, who do you know in this category? Who else do you relate to, or who else do you purchase from, or who else do you distribute through? And that information will hopefully give us some of these businesses that you've mentioned.
I wonder, have you thought of including the real estate agents in terms of, we distribute welcome packs to new residents, and so they have a database of who they've sold property to. Now, we don't necessarily know who those people are, but that might be a useful avenue because someone might have come in and bought my house and they've now got an online business operating out of there. Sure. But I don't know and you don't know. So. But the real estate agent has sold it to you. Yeah. Just an idea. Nigel.
Yeah, just a question on 3.2, page 47, the tradie staff recruitment meeting. A question on the attendance of businesses. Was it well attended?
Unfortunately, no. We had an enormous number, through you, Mr. Chair. We had an enormous number of responses saying yes, they were going to attend, We followed up by trying to confirm their attendance a day or two in advance. If memory serves me well, we had something like 16, possibly 18 confirmations of attendance. On the day, we had 2 people show up, apart from all of the rest of us representing council and MSD and various others in the Mahi Tahi program. It was very disappointing. We asked them why they thought that was the case, and their response was, people are busy and, they have good intentions, but, events overwhelm them.
And further to that, what timing was it? Was it during working hours or outside?
It was at the end of the working day, and it was catered, so there was some attraction to try to draw people in with food. But we were there till probably 6:30.
And there's one comment there. Many trades employees who live in the Rangitikei travel to Palmerston North and Wanganui to work. If it's possible to identify them, it would be worth finding out if they would like to work locally. Has anything been done with that?
We've been sort of considering that, and one of the responses that we've come up with is to just do a quick whip around and call employers and find out how many of their staff live and work locally and how many don't, or live and commute to work outside of the district. So that's where we are at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any online questions? B.
I'm just wondering if a Zoom option, if people are not going to come in person for whatever reason, perhaps trying a Zoom option was what went through my mind. Yeah, as frustrating as it is.
Through you, Mr. Chair. It's a very good suggestion, and it's one we're definitely going to try, because we can't go on like this. We have to find a better way to engage. And obviously what we didn't work, and now we just need to find alternatives. So thank you for the suggestion.
We've got some further questions? I have one further one. The destination management plan process is in full swing, but so far, what's our feedback? How is it fleshing out, or are we waiting for a report at some stage?
I do plan to, through you, Chair, I do plan to compile all the engagement data that we've got for everybody to have a look at, as well as be able to distribute the relative comments to relative departments within council. So I can do that for the next meeting, because I don't think, unfortunately, we'll be finished by then. But otherwise, yes, at the end of the engagement process, I plan to put it all together in a pretty little document.
Oh, thank you. Right. Then, unless we have any further questions from the floor or from online, B?
I'm just interested then, to date, are you happy with the social pinpoint interaction?
Don't know, I'm just going to look at the TV, sorry.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes and no, it could be better, but the comments that have come through have actually been quite good. Yeah.
A couple of questions from me. Jen, for the destination management plan to work the way that I read this, there has to be buy-in from the sector.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fair comment. And we're probably struggling with that a little bit. But is it worth, in terms of having the plan purely as a funding stream, because there's a requirement to have a plan in place? Can you sort of talk us through that? So eligibility to get external funding really relies on a destination management plan?
Through you, Chair. Without the buy-in from the businesses, the plan itself becomes pointless. I am working through those by doing one-on-one engagement sessions in order to get to get in front of them and hear what they have to say. But I think if we're talking a document for funding purposes, then the destination management plan isn't the approach.
Isn't the approach.
Not for the sole purpose of funding.
So my question is around if we're struggling to get real buy-in so that they become operators involved in the plan, if that's not the process and there's another process, what could that be?
I'd have to go away and have a look at it. The whole basis of the destination management approach is the collaboration and the relationships. I'm aware that a lot of them will take time to build, but for the most part, the engagement we've got from industry hasn't actually been that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to some of them, so.
Are the relationships that you refer to between ourselves and our clients, or is it between those clients out there somewhere?
All of the above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy. Got any further questions? No?
Councillor Hillrell.
Oh. Okay, who's first? Tracy? You had your hand up?
Hi, kia ora. One of the things that I was thinking about within this report and also in the previous, the economic space, is our own expectation that we're going to be able to expect to get something when we want it. So just because we want it at a certain time doesn't. Sometimes it can be unrealistic. And I think that that's evident across a number of areas, not only within council, but just in a whole lot of areas at the moment. Both within central and local government, where we're pushing to say that we need this to be happening now, but actually communities aren't necessarily ready for that to happen. And I'm just wondering whether or not, because I know that there's a whole lot of work that's been going on, and it may not be panning out as we want it, but it's the timing. And I don't know what the answer is to it, but it just seems to me that maybe it is just allowing it to have more, allowing things to have more time, because otherwise we could potentially go down to, have to make a decision to stop something halfway through because it hasn't given us the result we've wanted. But actually, if it had been given a little bit more time and thought around it, it might actually end up giving us the sort of feedback we wanted. So I don't know what the answer is to it myself, but I just wanted to put that out there because I don't believe it's from lack of trying. And like people have said, that there's within our community, what's an important thing as far as we're concerned from a council, quite frankly, out in our communities, many people aren't, that will be the last thing on people's minds. Whether or not you've got a job tomorrow is actually at the forefront of some people's, in some spaces, teachers, essential workers, those sorts of things. And also within the business space, of course, you have the added, there's another added pressure on employers around what does that mean for you as an employer within this whole COVID space. So, so I'm just sort of just throwing that out there. Like I say, I've got no solutions. I just want to put that out there, and just to mihi to those people that are working in this space, Jaime and Jen, for the work that you guys are doing at the moment. Kia ora.
So Jaime's got a comment that he's going to add.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that we learned, actually, there were two interesting bits of information we learned as a result of the tradies meeting. The first was that afterwards, we called around and we asked some of the tradies why they didn't appear, those that had confirmed that they were going to in advance. And their response was, well, we decided that council really has no authority in this area whatsoever because we're dealing with a national skills shortage problem. And the second thing was that they did not want to talk in public about their own personal problems because particularly within the same trade, most tradespeople are poaching staff from each other, and they didn't want to raise this issue in public and get into an argument, essentially. So they thought it was more discreet not to attend the meeting and not to get into this. So I thought that was quite interesting, and it just points out that in terms of the sort of engagements that certainly I'm involved in and possibly some of my colleagues are involved in, the aftermath of the meeting is probably as important in some cases as the meeting itself. So it's a lesson that I took from that.
Okay, Fee, you had a question?
It was really back to Jen, and I'm just interested, sort of further to what Councillor Hero was talking about. How do you think COVID is impacting you doing this destination management plan? And also, are you aware of many businesses actually folding because of COVID?
I think it has had a, through you, Chair, sorry. I think it has had an impact on the engagement. It's certainly pushed it back a little bit and altered my own timeline that I had set, but for the most part, I don't think it's too bad. Businesses folding, not that I'm aware of. There have been a couple of smaller ones having either closed or talking about the potential of it having to happen. But for the most part, I think we might be relatively well positioned.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Your worship.
Yeah, just in case there's been a misinterpretation of what I've said. First of all, I absolutely applaud the effort that's being put in this space. The Jen and Jaime are doing a great job. Where my angle was coming at was, I think, yes, we are struggling to get in terms of moving away from trades, but back to the destination management stuff. I think we're struggling to get those operators to say, I'm going to be part of this and I'm going to drive it. So, you know, are there alternatives to make sure that we can guarantee future funding streams because we don't have a destination management plan? For example, could we more formally piggyback on, you know, Palmerston or Wanganui's relationships there? And, you know, because I don't want to see something just stop and nothing happens and we don't have a portal to be able to provide support for these companies. That's sort of the direction of my thinking.
So we've got a few, not all of our key industry businesses at the table yet. Optimistic, but I've already selected the businesses from within the industry that'll be a part of that working group once the draft is formed to help shape that plan going forward from there. So I'm not personally worried about that aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, unless there's any other further queries or comments, shall we move 10.3? 10.2. I've jumped the gun. Yeah, who would like to move that the economic development update be received? Thank you, Nigel. And Tracy, thank you, Tracy. Those in favour say aye. Aye. And against? Carried. Thank you. Right, now we can do 10.3. Change slides to work. Yeah, page 55. Who's our lead on this one? Oh, Nadia. Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as far as the report goes, I'm happy to take that as read. There are just a few things I'd like to add to that. One is on the back of the comments I was making earlier around some of the behaviour that our library staff have had to endure over school holidays. Now, these aren't isolated events. Our library team have, continually have to deal with what we could refer to as difficult customers of varying age groups. Melanie Bovey, who is our library manager, has been looking at opportunities to train our staff to deal with such situations. Now, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Carol, I believe that Sharon, as part of People and Culture, are looking at that now as a more organisation-wide approach with other front-facing staff. So I think that will help equip our team with the tools they need to feel confident in the decisions that they make when they deal with such incidences. The other topic I'd like to raise, and you have been emailed with this, is the unfortunate cancellation of Martin Market Day for this year. Given the current COVID restrictions and the uncertainty that we're facing, I feel that, we're really just following suit with every other large event. Logistically, to monitor people coming in and out of a market day, even if there does happen to be vaccination passports at the time, it would be impossible for us. So the lead in time, the resources, the financial resources required to start advertising that are, it just doesn't make any sense really. I have reached out to a couple of local people who we know put on events that support our local businesses around Christmas time, to see if there's something at a more local level that we can collaborate on. I have yet to hear back from them, but I will let you know if anything comes from that.
Right, questions?
One for me, Chair, if I may. With regards to the incidents that you have highlighted of both the libraries in Taihape and Martin and Bulls, sorry. And you said they're not isolated incidences. Can we, do we identify if it's repetitive from the same people, and if so, what steps are available to us?
Yes, so internally we do know if there are repeat offenders, if you want to use that term. We have gone through banning of some of these youth. The idea behind trespassing them we felt was too far. A trespass notice is for 2 years. So we just feel that at that age that's just a step too far. Usually once they've been banned, they come back, they behave better for a while. Sometimes it will escalate again. I've connected, following yesterday's incident, I connected with Kelly Widdowson, our youth advisor, who's going to contact the staff that dealt with the situation, try and get a larger appreciation of the situation that these boys might be facing, and with her connections with people that work in the youth area, with possibly at-risk youth too in Taihape, see if there's some sort of community intervention that we can come up with that might support these boys.
Yeah, I would agree that a trespass notice is a strong, heavy-handed approach, but I wonder if it's almost a restorative justice type approach needs to be implemented, and get the two people together somehow. Particularly if it's a one-off event, it's a one-off. But if we're finding that it's repetitive in its nature, then there's perhaps another step that needs to be put in place to have a conversation with a group or an organisation that can facilitate that for the well-being of our staff as well as the offenders of that, for want of a better word.
That's right. Kelly has some strong connections now with the police in Taihape, who will be dealing with these young boys. So I think all avenues will be looked at.
Sure.
Yeah. I do tend to think that behaviour like this is a byproduct of other situations.
Thank you. B, you've got a question?
I'm just thrilled to read about the e-box and interested in how that's been marketed. That availability, yeah.
Yeah, the ebooks are being marketed through the libraries, but also online. I do feel this is an area that we can definitely increase our marketing of not just our ebook resources, but all our e-resources.
Any further questions or comments online? No. Chris?
Just a question in terms of the, I think it's 2.4, community-led development of council owned, and there's a, I'm just curious about sent off domain and what's proposed or being talked about down there.
I'm through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if I'm the best one with my finger on the pulse on sent off domain. Those were added because I had inadvertently omitted them from the original list.
Sent off domains firing ahead great guns. So a huge amount of work's been done there. Tanks and everything are on site. Yeah. So it's rapidly moving to a position where it can be used by any group, including youth.
That's just an open space available for use for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there'll be facilities. Some of it's targeted for those people with horses and things. So there's washing facilities for those groups, but no, absolutely available. But just remember, it's a reasonable distance out of town, you know, so it tends to be organised groups that will use it.
Yeah, I'm just, Mr. Jim, I'm just thinking about it in terms of the context of sent off forest and some of the native planting work and things we're doing down that area and potential tracks and what have you.
Of course, the link is the Te Arawa walkway. So that's right where people come back out of the coast heading for bulls, and they've spent the track down the coast is quite a long walk. I've done it. So when you get to Santoff, you're in need of a break, but you're certainly in need of water.
Yeah.
You know, it's a reasonable track down.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just on the same subject, 2.4, the community development guide on council and facilities was well received by the community committee last night here in this room, and well understood the need to have it in place, but also by that community committee was the fully understanding of how they can actually progress their ideas a lot further and a lot quicker by getting that early engagement in place. So I think it's a great document, and it was well received by the community committee.
Now, I've got a question on this one. In the document, you've effectively listed groups that are fixed to one site. I'll describe it that way. So how about Lions and Rotary, or a group like Rangitikei Environment Group, who operate over a number of spaces? Do they fit into this space as well? Yeah, I'm aware of, say, the Lions do work in Hunterville. I mean, Councillor Delgedi, if she's there. No, she is. Yeah, she can confirm that, because I know a former councillor was donkey deep in that space. And I'm sure that we've got Rotary or Lions in Martin that do work on council parks or in some of these public spaces. So do they fit within this structure?
Do you mean, sorry, I'm not quite understanding the question. Do you mean, do they need to go through this process if they're wanting to do community development, or are they a consideration should they be a group that should be considered to consult with if they're doing?
Both.
Both. Yeah. I think that's when for the latter, I think that's when the early engagement with staff becomes important, because the staff that would be assigned to whichever project it would be would ideally know what other parties have interest in a certain area. So if I can use the forgotten track in Martin as an example, which is really taken care of by Lions, should someone come to staff and say, look, I'm thinking about developing this area, we should have that knowledge to say, actually, there's a key group for this that we need to consider engaging with and engaging with early, or have you spoken to them, that kind of thing. So in that respect, yes. If there's a new project that any of those organisations would want to initiate, I just feel this is a document that would be used by them, be wanted to be used by them to help guide that conversation.
That's fine.
Yeah, just Sort of following on from the questions around the sent-off domain, if I look at the projects that possibly this committee and council should understand better and help them kickstart or move on, sent-off domain is well underway. It's actually happening, but probably we haven't really been informed as up to date. But the Tai Happy playground group that we've said we'll put 50,000 into, actually saying, do you want a spot in front of this committee or a spot in front of council to tell us what you're doing? The Bulls domain one would be the other one. Wilson Park, we've had a reasonable exposure to as a council, but perhaps, and we've had exposure to the Hautapu River Park, and they're going great guns, doing all sorts of things. But there's 2 or 3 others that we may benefit from understanding exactly what their wishes are, especially if we've approved funding.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have a lot of community groups that are really active and wanting to do some amazing development. Through the deliberations of the long-term plan, Arno presented the concept which elected members agreed to undertake an open spaces, parks and sporting facilities strategy, so that gives better clarity to elected members and the community around, 1, what we need, but 2, possibly what those priorities are. And so, yes, money has also, alongside that, been given to these different groups. But the follow-up conversations that staff have had with those is there's some things that we can do prior to the completion of the strategy, but essentially we need to wait for that strategy to be in place and understood before we go ahead with any works. And the sort of pre-work that I think for some of the groups is feasible is more just around the community engagement around what is it that community might like to see, but being very clear with expectations that it might not actually be the end result, dependent on the strategy.
I guess the question is, do these groups have a clear understanding of where they sit in the spectrum of time, and or are they sitting there thinking we're waiting for someone to get back to us and we're not sure what's happening?
I've personally engaged with the Wilson Park group and the Tai Happy Playground group.
Okay.
If I could just say that,
have you got a comment, Arno, you want to make?
Sorry, Councillor Wilson, just quickly, also the Bulls Domain group, we've spoken to them too. So all the groups that have been really eager to get going, they are all completely up to speed with what we're doing.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, Dave.
Sorry, just to come right back to full circle, if we follow the document that has been produced as a guide, it ticks all the boxes, all the conversations and questions have just been asked around the table. If we follow that, it signals who are the engagement groups that we need to do, who do you need to touch up, what do you need to consider. It's very concise, it's very clear. Anybody picking it up and following it will answer all of those questions that have been raised in the last few questions and comments.
Excellent.
Sorry.
Question
again. Yeah, look, it's just a recreation space is something that's of interest to Waitangi Ngāti Apa, I know that for sure, but and there's some interesting things that are going on, like I know Horizons are looking at walkways along the Rangitike from around the Tūtainui stream outlet around there. Started works on that, got funding to do it and all these sorts of things. We're working with them. And I just think sometimes there's just some synergies, that potentially, I mean, they're doing it pretty quietly. It's not that sort of, well known, And I think, this growing area of recreational, walking, mountain biking and the like, linked up with areas like the sent-off domain, for example, things that, just has some potential for growing usage of some of these sites. So that's really why my comment really is just, get the radar out there and just see what's going on a little bit.
Right, unless there's any further questions, would someone like to move that the report be received? Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Chris. Those in favour say aye. And against? Carried. Thank you. Item 10.4, our Youth Development Operational Report.
Hello.
Welcome to the table, Kelly.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Oh, sure. Hello, everyone. Not sure if you all know me or not. I'm Kelly. I work in the youth development space. I'm happy to take my report as read and take any comments or questions that you might have.
Who'd like to be first?
So, question, when were you down in Wellington? Looking at the photos there.
It's really detailed.
We were there
I know where it is.
at the end of July.
End of
for
July.
Festival for the Future, yeah.
Okay.
Have we got someone online?
I see Phoebe waving, but there's no hand up.
Councillor Dalgety, have you got a question there?
I'm just interested, did all the youth council go to Wellington?
Through you, Chair. I don't know where to look for that, but
That
we
camera up
had-
there, I think.
we had 7 councillors go and 2 found replacements for their tickets. So 7 out of 11 and 9 youth.
Thank you.
No, look, I attend the youth council meetings, so there's been, I think, one that I've been able to miss, sorry, not be able to miss. I didn't go down this time. I have been down to Festival in the Future in the past. It's a phenomenal opportunity. Yes, it's reasonably expensive in terms of money and time, etc., but it is the highlight for them in terms of where they can seek their aspirations. You know, it's a very, very good process. The Youth Council also, you know, is a way of introducing youth to responsibilities and committees and structures, and there's been a couple of the Youth Council that are going on to study local government, take law. So hats off to them. I congratulate Kelly on the work she's putting in there.
I have a question, and it's regarding your comment in 4.3. How are things going with our connection to the north of the district? Referring to Taihape and our area school up there.
In the last 12 months, it's been relatively quiet. It's been on my to-do list as I got into full-time work, because last year I was only part-time FTE, which made it really hard to travel up there and make those connections. But no, I met last week, the week before, with Craig Dredge, the principal of Taihape School, and we've made a really positive and hopeful connection there that we can show our face some more and get some really good connections with the students. Being able to represent council a lot more up there.
If I could add to that, I was really quite humbled by Craig's offer to allow us space to operate from up there. So essentially a room or a space, part of a room, so that we can have more face-to-face, not just with the youth, but with the staff as well. So when we think about things like youth awards, where it's really reliant on staff showcasing the youth, by Kelly being able to be there and politely remind them, you know, we look forward to seeing more interaction that way too.
So effectively, these are my words, he's allowing you to become part of their furniture, almost, as opposed to a visitor who arrives every now and then just disappears.
Yeah, to some extent, Kelly, Nadia and I have tag teamed a little bit in terms of the interaction with Taihape Area School. And Kelly's absolutely right, because I really suffered from it with COVID. The difficulty of travelling up there, just ruling that out, meant there was a gap. Artify McNeil was the lead, sort of lead up there, and won, of course, the Youth of the Year type awards. There's some work to do there, and I'll get back, for instance, in terms of engagement with the scholarships that we offer through this council. One of the real benefits down the track is the Mahi Tahi program has been exceptional, and for some of those people going into these sorts of programs for work, some of their first reactions are engaging with understanding that council has a role, that youth space tends to flow over later into this program.
Nigel?
Yeah, just a question. The Taihape and Martin lobbies remaining closed until alert level 1. I mean, that must be creating a frustration amongst the youth that utilise those spaces. Has there been any look into the ability of being able to open them under any type of restrictions and utilise those spaces to help those youth out that are missing that space? Question, sorry, through the chair to you, Kelly.
So unfortunately, the Martin lobby is just too small to open until we get to level 1. I guess from my perspective, I rely on the community connections that I have and the other events that I know are going on, the things that other services are being able to provide in that area, which means that I can refer children, youth onto those things. So while there is a gap for the lobby space, there is still a lot of things happening around town that are available to them.
Right, so like library spaces or things like that?
Library spaces, there's lots of youth programs going, leadership opportunities, things like that.
Cool.
Fee, you had a question?
I thought that we were struggling to get adequate representation on the Youth Council out of Taihape Area School. Has that been resolved, or going forward, is that a challenge just currently?
Thanks for the question, Fee. This year we had one representation from Taihape Area School, and that was a real challenge for her to speak on behalf of her entire student body. But with the positive connection and networking that we've made with Craig Dredge, I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to improve that next year and get a lot more representation out of Taihape.
Brilliant, thank you, great work.
One quick question, and forgive my ignorance on this. This is a fully funded council program for the Festival for the Future?
Yes. So when I proposed to council that we invest in a youth council, there was a $10,000 budget that went against that, and that covers, that includes Festival for the Future.
Supplementary to that, and with my Rotary hat on, is there a connection here between our Ryla and Raipen programs that we run and a potential to get people from this group to some of those, and which is therefore a funded venture by, or largely funded by Rotary? I just know that there seems to me to be a synergy between what you've been doing and what another community group is doing, and whether or not there's some added benefits that could be added into this somehow. I don't know if that...
With my 2 hats on, I would agree.
Yes, okay. I just wonder if that's something that could be investigated, because I can see some benefits that could come out of for some of these students, or also from Rotary back into who is what are a clearly enthusiastic bunch of young people. So.
I'll connect Kelly with Karen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I just comment on it? Yeah, so Karen and I actually talked about that just recently, and I did make 2 nominations for Ryla, the January one, I think it's Ryla, and looking at some of these guys for Ripen in March.
Good,
So
thank you.
really interested though to talk about how we could collaboratively invest together.
I think there's a conversation to be had. Sorry, Chair.
You wish.
Yeah, I think it pays to remember we're not the only game in town in terms of engaging with youth and Taihati. So, you know, Mokai Pātea have had a phenomenal history in this space, but there are also, you know, a group, for instance, wanting to take some of their youth rafting and doing other things as well, and you know, maybe those are things that we could more actively support. There's Gayleen or Tracy will remind me of their names, but for instance, there's another group that will take people into some of the landlocked land areas, and currently they have to fly them in. They'll be in there for a week or so. So we're not the only ones in this space in that area. You know, and I think we have a responsibility to try and support those programs as well.
Kerry, are you connected with these other groups and programs fully, or are some of these names and concepts that are bouncing around here at the table, are they new?
No, so I actually mentioned that in my report. Kat Stoney is the one, her and her husband Steve take.
Okay. Gayleen might want to remind you of their names. I've just gone through my head.
That's right. Right, have we got any comments or queries from online? No? Okay. And any further questions from the floor? The meeting? Right, would someone like to move that the development update be received? Thank you, Nigel, and thank you, Warren. Those in favour say aye. And against? Carried. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nadi. And I think that brings us to the end of our order paper. So, we haven't got any, there's no late items? No. So our next meeting is on Thursday, the 9th of December. Without.
Can you just ask the councillors to stay online after the meeting closes?
Okay, could councillors please just stay online?
And staff.
And staff, thank you. So I'll declare the meeting closed at 2:33. Not quite up to Councillor Wilson's record, but we're getting there. Thank you for your attendance.